All happens on the highway.
Yes. And it said the reports started happening in the 50s. So that kind of made sense to me because I know my father, when he was in college, he would hitchhike back and forth to UMass from Foxborough, which is actually pretty close to where this was. And he would just be on the highway, you know what I mean, and do it that way. But like recently, like in the last 20 years, I mean...
Well, wait, didn't the guy have to walk to like a gas station to call AAA?
It said they broke down, and he started to walk down the road, and he saw the ghost on the roadside.
So...
Which would imply the same road.
I'm just wondering, like, does it predate cell phones if he was calling AAA and he had to walk somewhere to get to a phone to call AAA? Or...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point. I don't know. I guess my point is, if you see some dude who doesn't look all that great, maybe don't just walk up to him and be like, hey, you got a phone? Like,
well, back in the day, though, at the same time, I mean, it used to be a different world.
No cell phone, broken down. I mean, you gotta...
Sounds older. Sounds definitely older.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Back to the story. When the husband returned to the car, he found his wife sobbing. When he asked her what was wrong, she told him that while he was gone, something impossible happened. She was sitting in the car when her husband left and turned the radio on to pass the time. After a few minutes, a voice interrupted the song. She assumed it was the DJ at first, but the voice then addressed the wife by her name, something the DJ would not have been able to do. After this, the ghost then began to mock her and laugh in an unsettling way. The wife got out of the car to escape this, but she was so frightened by what happened, she remained outside of the car until her husband came back. While the couple was able to flag down another driver and get back home, the husband believed this incident made his wife a much more nervous woman.
This definitely sounds older. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see it being a while back, but
I mean, I feel like if you're telling this ghost story and then you end it with like, yeah, now my wife's like super nervous. It's just like a funny way to end it.
Yeah, why would you say that?
It's just a weird way. I saw it on two separate sites. It said it made a comment that like the wife is now nervous. I don't know. An especially ominous part of the stories is that unlike many other hitchhiker ghosts or ladies in white stories, no one has any idea who this man is. Some believe he may be involved in a horrible crash on that stretch of the road or a clip by a car where he was walking alongside of it. He could even be the ghost of someone that predates there even being a road there at all. Some 19th century farmer whose spirit has never been put to rest. Spooky.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine if you were a 19th century farmer, you probably
wouldn't be rocking the flannel?
Well, yeah, maybe. You probably wouldn't be hitchhiking very much either, you know, because you wouldn't know what a car was. But you might think it was pretty neat.
You might think it was pretty neat.
Right? That's why he bursts out laughing. It's like, hey, I get to ride this car. This is pretty cool. I didn't have these back when I was farming in Rehoboth.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a weird story. It doesn't really sound like a ghost to me at all. It sounds maybe more like a demonic entity. I don't know. It sounds cliche. It sounds like a cliche ghost, the maniacal laughter. I find it very interesting. It only seems to communicate with women for the most part. I mean, no, it's both accounts where it came through the radio that was dealing with a woman. So, I don't know. I don't know what it means. I believe it's a real thing, though, because I know a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being real. You know, actually, a little bit of a story. My mother, myself, and my young cousin, we were on a trip all together, and the van suddenly broke down, just completely broke down. We were very lucky we were able to pull over to the side of the road before it just gave out completely. And all the lights out, everything out. My mother, she's trying to figure out what's going on with the car. We're sitting there, she's getting her cell phone out. All of a sudden, the lights turn back on in the car. And there's laughter over the radio. And we're sitting there kind of, you know, wetting our pants at that moment because it's nighttime. We've just broken down. We're on the side of the road and all of this laughter. In our case, it was the radio turning back on and it was the Gorillas. I don't know the name of that song where they start laughing in the very beginning, but it was... but it was at the very beginning. We got to find a clip of that, throw it in here or something, but it was actually terrifying.
Right.
It was terrifying in that situation. So I gotta say, if I did break down on the side of the road and out of nowhere on the radio came laughter, definitely terrifying.
I feel like I gotta point out that where we grew up, which was not far from here,
Not at all.
there's a guy who was bright red hair, unkempt, gigantic red beard, wore all red.
His name was Redman.
That was what he was called, but
He was called Redman.
I don't know what his
He
actual name
was from my street
Yeah.
on the Hanover side, yeah.
But he was a pretty nice guy, but he was always walking around the side of the road all red.
Yes.
Pretty similar to the description of this guy.
Sort of, except for the fact he doesn't wear a flannel and he doesn't disappear when he gets in the car.
Like a red jumpsuit or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he just loves red.
But I feel like he was the only guy who was wearing all red all the time around there.
I believe you are getting yourself confused. He was the only red man, but there was also a yellow man.
Well, no, I remember Yellow Man too, but like there was somebody else who walked along the side of the road in the area. He didn't really hitchhike either. He just always by the side of the road.
Yeah, I know. He was a pretty terrible alcoholic.
But all over the different roads.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
You know, you'd be like 3 towns away and you'd see
Redman.
Yeah, Redman.
I worked at the Hanover Mall for a long time, and Redman used to just walk around the mall sometimes.
Yep.
Not talk to anyone.
He was a nice guy. He talked to people.
I don't recall him talking to anyone.
I talked to him a few times.
You would.
Not direct. Not like somebody introduced
not
me.
Not directly.
He knew somebody who
Someone introduced you to Redman.
Yeah, he was like,
Chuck?
No, Chuck went. This was when we were younger.
Like a child introduced you to him?
Yeah, when we were children, who was...
So some child somehow knew Redman, the crazy man who would walk around the streets and introduce you to him.
Lots of people knew him.
This sounds like the most unbelievable thing on this show right now.
No, I'm concerned about the welfare of the child who introduced you to him.
People talked to him. He was like a friendly guy. He lived in like his brother's garage or something.
He did, on my street.
Yeah.
But I never talked to him. No. He was on my street's very long, and it was on the other town side of the street. But
I don't know, definitely talked to him like 2 or 3 times. But my point is, I feel like there were a lot of people who wore like distinctive red with the red hair. I don't feel like it was just him. I feel like there were other.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The point is, none of these people you've seen wearing red walking on the street disappear and their eyes turn white and then they start laughing maniacally from all different points around you, and then you become a nervous woman.
Right, that's true. They could do the maniacal laughter thing, though.
Oh, I'm sure they could. I mean, yeah.
There was some substance abuse going on there.
There's a lot of substance abuse on the South Shore right now, yeah. I just think it's very scary. Spooky.
Yeah. It is spooky.
We're definitely going to have to take a trip at some point and drive down for ourselves, take a look, and see what Route 44 is all about.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh.
Okay, so if anyone out there has ever picked up this guy, wants to let me know, has a first-hand account, that would be great. I got a lot of my information from 2 websites. One was fun107.com, the other was strangenewengland.com. So yeah, if you want to read more, you can go check out those sites. And now it's time for mail. My first email comes from Tom. Title, You Asked, I'm Answering. Hey, Amelia. Hey. First, I'm sorry that Beth is going on hiatus. I'll miss her voice and dry wit. Second, thanks for reading my encounters on the Halloween show. To answer your questions, the I saw it was in reference to seeing the door move on its own. Up until that point, I had only heard the door creak. No apparition was seen. Boo. And yes, the pulse that I get in my head occasionally was the same in both encounters. I have been ghost hunting in southeastern Pennsylvania area on and off for about 11-ish years or so. Oh, very cool. Very haunted area there. That's neat. I usually just do public areas or friends' houses and or friends of friends' houses and have never had a stable group, so I consider my ghost hunting to be casual. I do have some pretty cool equipment that I've acquired over the years, including a digital voice recorder, K2, ghost meter, a laser contracted thermometer, a probe thermometer taped to a drumstick. I'm a drummer. I feel a cold spot. I stick the probe into the spot. Because my hand isn't touching it, I get an accurate reading. That is very smart and thinking with your head. An older Sony Handycam with night vision. I really need a new one. An IR flashlight that effectively triples the range of IR on the Handycam. An old school digital display EMF detector. Cool. My approach to ghost hunting is that I get all the info and evidence I can and put it into a report to give to the client and let the client decide. I never really say whether a place is haunted or not, just answer the questions directly with what I did or did not experience. Keep up the great work, and I hope you find a good co-host or subs for the time being. My kids love the show too. Happy huntings, Tom. Well, thank you, Tom. Shout out to your kids. Hey kids, thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. And my word, you have a huge amount of ghost hunting equipment. Way more than I have. Oh, that sounds pretty cool too. Well, good on you, Tom. Thank you so much for writing back in, and we hope to hear more stories in the future, especially from some of your ghost hunts down there in Pennsylvania. Right back in. Okay, so our next message comes from Josh Hate Things on Instagram. Okay, so I'm listening to the new episode and I got chills. I also saw a UFO with my mom. I was only 4 or 5 though, and my mom doesn't remember seeing it, but I remember it vividly. I'll send my story in tomorrow. I also got really creeped out with the Shadow People episode. I've also seen the Hat Man, but didn't know that was a thing. My skin crawled and eyes got watery during that story. Thanks, guys. Well, you are so welcome, Josh. I'm glad we could scare you a little bit. But really, no, please send us those stories. I want to hear it so bad. Why don't we all just get together and do an episode of us seeing UFOs with our moms? I mean, we had Josh from Minnesota last week. Now we have Josh, I believe is from California tonight, who's going to send us our story hopefully by next week. And that is great. So thank you so much. Our next message comes from Lauren and Lace on Instagram. Listening to your Halloween episode, I recently started to learn more about paganism. Norse paganism specifically. I grew up Christian. The traditions that we've gotten from the pagans have been blowing my mind lately. Thank you for sharing. A nurse I work with recommended your podcast. She's gotten many people listening. It's been a topic to discuss in our department lately. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. That was really nice. And I would like to send a very special shout out to Jess, who you work with. Jess, my goodness, thank you for telling people about our show. I really appreciate that. You're awesome, and way to go to all the nurses everywhere for all the really hard work you do and helping people feel safe and better. And as promised from last week, we have another recording from Jen up in Maine. Thank you so much, Jen. And I just looked at my email right before we started recording. I noticed I have some more recordings from Jen, which means, as everyone knows, if you send me enough stuff to get on more than 3 episodes, you get your very own sound clip. And here is Jen's. So we can all look forward to Jen's stories coming up, and here is her story for tonight.
Okay, so this is Jen from Newburyport, Massachusetts. I sent you a different story about a friend's house of mine, High Street in Newburyport. This is my second story about that same house. This was the only other incident that I had there. I think after this incident, I kind of stopped spending the night there. You can imagine why. So, same room, we were upstairs on the 3rd floor in her renovated attic, which was like a den, and there was also an office up there in a separate part across the hallway. Again, I was spending the night there with another friend of mine, and all 3 of us were in the sleeping on the pull-out sofa together. The sofa was situated right next to the doorway into the room. So it's dark, we're laying there, it's very quiet, I'm still awake, I couldn't fall asleep, but everyone was silent, we weren't talking anymore, and so I hear this sound, and it sounded like someone walking quietly into the room that we were in from the hallway or the office area into the room, footsteps on carpet, because there was a carpet in there. It was quiet, soft.